Kid Hanjo, your average girl, is chatting with her friend Risa via video call. Risa insists that Kid try out the virtual reality MMORPG New World online. Kid doesn't seem too keen, and it doesn't help that Risa can't play with her since she's busy studying. However, she wants Kid to give the game a go and promises to join her later. Kid agrees, solely because Risa asked, and straps on the VR gear needed to dive into the game. Inside the virtual world, our protagonist starts creating her character. Not wanting to get hurt, Kid crafts an avatar named Maple with a shield, allocating all her skill points to defense. Maple enters the game world and notices she can't walk very fast. She discovers that by putting all her skill points into defense, her basic abilities, like speed and attack, have significantly decreased, leaving her slow and weak in attack. While exploring the market, Maple meets a young player who tells her to venture into the forest where different monsters will attack her, allowing her to increase her stats and skills. Maple thanks her and heads to the forest. In the forest, a weak monster attacks Maple, bumping into her, but Maple feels nothing. She doesn't attack back, letting the monster keep attacking, boosting her defense skills until they're higher than the monster's power. When it hits her, it's defeated, teaching Kid that her high defense allows her to gain new abilities and extra skill points for defense just by letting enemies attack her. The next monster to attack her is a kind of bee that shoots poison. Maple realizes that while she doesn't feel pain, the poison can still harm her, so she runs away but slips, becoming vulnerable to the creature. Luckily for our heroine, the repeated attacks increase her poison resistance until, after a few shots, the monster's poison no longer affects her, and she easily defeats it, earning a prize in the process. Happy with her new abilities, Maple decides to rest and is attacked by several monsters while sleeping, but she doesn't even notice as her defense increases. The day ends, and Kid logs off, but her unique tactics have not gone unnoticed, and many players are curious about the girl boosting her defense power. The next day, Kid logs in again and is surprised to meet the knight Kuromu, who has a much more complex shield than hers, so she asks where she can get one like that. Kuromu introduces her to Iz, the craftsman who offers to upgrade her shield in exchange for money. Maple doesn't have the money, and Iz tells her to undertake various missions, like killing a dragon living in distant mountains. Kuromu gives her a few healing potions, and carefree, Maple heads to the lair of the poison dragon. The dragon's attack is too powerful, destroying Maple's shield, but using the potions Kuromu gave her, our young heroine manages to withstand the poisonous attacks long enough to develop total immunity to the poison, allowing her to defeat the dragon by eating it. As a result, she not only gains the abilities of the poison dragon but also a unique set of armor and shield. The day ends, and Kid tells Risa she's having fun and looks forward to seeing her in the game soon. Risa says she'll be able to join her soon, revealing she's a champion in the game. Meanwhile, Maple's fame starts to rise, making her a favorite among other players. Inside the game of Maple, our hero is getting tough as nails, munching on exploding bugs to become almost invulnerable to blasts. She's eagerly waiting for her buddy Risa to join in on the action soon. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Risa's over the moon that Kid's digging the game and is hoping to ace some subjects soon so she can get the green light to plug in. Back in the digital realm, Maple decides to throw her hat into the Battle Royale event ring. She's zipped along with other players across the map. Knowing she can't chase them down because she's not exactly the fastest or strongest, Maple opts to wait for them to come to her. It doesn't take long for the other players to take the bait, thinking she's an easy target. But they're quickly taken down by Maple's shield and her slew of immunity powers. It gets to the point where everyone teams up against her, but our heroine whips out her dragon poison and wipes the floor with them, leaving the rest of the players gobsmacked. Just like that, Maple effortlessly takes down anyone who dares to approach her, snagging third place since she didn't get a chance to clash with the other two top dogs before the event wrapped up. The next day, Risa joins the game as Sally, a swordswoman who's all about dodging. But unlike Maple, Sally spreads her skill points to start off with a more balanced character. The two pals hit up a cave to fish for materials for a new shield on behalf of Iz. However, Maple can't keep up with Sally's pace because her speed's pretty much non-existent. So, Sally ends up piggybacking her while taking care of the defense, making them a dynamic duo of defense and speed. In the cave, Sally and Maple fish for the scales they need for the new shield, but Maple's not exactly a pro fisher, so they fall short of their goal. Sally dives into the cave's underground lake and discovers a secret underwater cave behind a locked door. She comes back up with the scales and fills Maple in on her find. Maple knows she can't swim to see the door since she's missing those skills, but decides to tag along in gratitude. So, the duo starts hitting up the cave daily for Sally to explore and hone her underwater skills. Time flies, and Sally decides it's time to face the boss behind the door. Maple can't join in but keeps an eye on the clock while Sally's submerged. The boss is a tough underwater creature, but a mix of magic and speed lets Sally emerge victorious just as she's about to run out of air. Sally scores a new robe with powers to boot and celebrates with her friend. As the two young adventurers rejoice, a voice announces that a new level of the game, a world brimming with fresh adventures, will soon open up. Back in the real world, Keed and Risa are catching up on the latest game updates, which, for some reason, seem to mainly target Maple's defense abilities. Risa figures it's probably because Keed's character has shaken up the game's power dynamics. It's not exactly fair, but now our heroine needs to figure out how to keep beefing up her defense despite the new hurdles. Risa's all about looking on the bright side, though. She reckons that being able to take some damage now means Maple can hit back even harder. The duo dives back into the game, hitting the shops to max out their abilities. While Sally picks up a mix of items, Maple zeroes in on defense gear. Chilling in a cafe, Maple and Sally catch wind of the next event from players Dread and Drag. The pair hints at a forest quest and a probable showdown next time they meet. But they also drop that no one's a match for the game's champ, the legendary Pain, one of the first to hit level 2. That night, the girls venture into a haunted forest. Sally's spooked. She's never finished a haunted forest mission because of her ghost phobia. Maple, however, doesn't seem fazed by their spooky surroundings. Stumbling upon an abandoned house in the woods, they find a man tied up in a chair in the basement. After they free him, and it turns out he's a ghost too, he crosses over to the other side, leading the girls with a new super speed ability. They wind down at a hidden beach spot that's always got a killer sunset. The next day, as Maple and Sally push into level 2, they're ambushed by monsters. Maple's shield gobbles them up, but she's now limited to using this power only 10 times. Sally tests out a new illusion ability with her friend's shield, making it invisible. Deep in a cave, they face off against a stag boss. Sally takes it down after Maple is knocked out, pushing them into the game's second level. Maple wishes she could have been more help. In level 2, they meet up with Iz, who's set up her new shop there. Iz hands over a newly optimized shield for Maple's playstyle. Afterwards, they hit up a special area for a star-filled meal together. Then the second event kicks off. Maple bumps into Kuromu in the waiting area, introduces him to Sally. They also meet the Flame Emperors, a fan group led by the powerful Fire Mage Mi. The game's mascot announces the event, a treasure hunt for gold medals, some held by winners of the last event. And yep, other players can attack those with a gold medal, including Maple. As the event kicks off, Maple and Sally find themselves transported to a breathtaking field, marveling at its beauty. Sally also reminds our heroine that while they've spent a week together in the game, it's only been 2 hours in the real world. The duo sets off in search of their first medals, finding no real challenge in their path. Suddenly, Maple falls through a false floor, leading them to discover a hidden dungeon with its own boss. Defeating it grants them their first medals. Returning to the mountains, they encounter Kuromu's group, who share that many gold medal winners have been attacked by other players, as the rules allow. However, Kuromu and his team have no intention of fighting our protagonists. Spotting a portal in the snow, only one group can pass through. In gratitude for Kuromu's kindness, Maple gives them the right to cross and claim the medal. Kuromu thanks them, and his group proceeds through the portal. However, the portal immediately reopens, leaving our heroines to wonder if it's because Kuromu's group was defeated by the boss, making it their turn. Crossing the portal, they face a formidable ice-bird boss, Silverwing, whose powerful moves adapt to Maple's defenses, changing attack patterns and challenging our protagonist. Pushing their abilities to the limit, Maple and Sally battle the mighty creature, which seems unaffected by their combined attacks. Maple is forced to use her shield ability to its maximum, allowing her to move at super speed, but only to protect someone. Eventually, our heroines manage to defeat Silverwing with minimal health left. Along with more metals and crafting materials, they find a pair of monster eggs, which they decide to take with them. Meanwhile, in another dimension, two curious game administrators wonder how Silverwing could have been defeated, given its intended invincibility. They also investigate the eggs and decide to monitor Maple's abilities to prevent her from combining them for more power. Back in level 2, the eggs hatch into a turtle and a fox companion, named Syrup and Oboro, respectively. During their journey, the girls train their new pets, who also have special abilities. Even the turtle is faster than Maple. Later, the girls arrive at an oasis in the desert, where they're challenged by Kasumi, the swordswoman, who wants Maple's gold medal. The battle kicks off with Sally and Kasumi going at it at breakneck speeds, leaving Maple in awe and trailing behind. As Sally and Kasumi clash, the trio unexpectedly falls into an underground dungeon. Waking up, they discover they're bound together by an unbreakable cursed chain that will kill them all if even one dies. Recognizing the need to cooperate, Sally and Kasumi put their fight on hold, figuring that the key to freeing themselves from the chains is to overcome the dungeon's challenges together. During their conversation, Maple stumbles upon another medal. She offers to share it with her companions, but they insist that the finder keeps it, no hard feelings. As they explore further, Sally and Maple share their encounter with Silverwing with Kasumi. Their discussion is cut short when Sally hears a strange noise. They find the dungeon inhabited by giant snails. Attempting to check their stats and finding none, they conclude these aren't boss monsters to fight but hazards to avoid. Sally and Kasumi, using their super speed and dragging Maple along, navigate the snail-filled dungeon. Despite their efforts, they find themselves surrounded without an exit in sight. Thanks to Kasumi's strategy, the trio makes a leap towards an exit, combining Kasumi and Sally's skills, earning mutual admiration for their efforts. Reaching the prize room, they're freed from their chains and share the loot, which includes a shield, guess who gets that, weapons, power scrolls, and 2 coins, one for Sally and one for Kasumi. Transported outside the dungeon, Kasumi apologizes for her initial aggression, which Maple forgives, understanding it wasn't against the rules. Maple offers friendship before they part ways to continue their journeys. The game goes on, with the two friends exploring level 2 in search of remaining medals. On a beach, Maple and Sally encounter Kanade. Sally's wary, but Kanade assures them he's no threat, being only level 5, far below our protagonists. Kanade, with a knack for clues and riddles, hands them a book with hints for the next medal. The clue leads them to an underwater squid boss, invulnerable to Sally's attacks but defeated by Maple, who poisons the sea, securing another medal. This move catches the game administrator's attention, starting to refer to Maple as the boss of bosses. With time running out and peaceful exploration not an option for the remaining medals, Sally decides it's time for combat. Not wanting to slow her friend down, Sally entrusts Maple with guarding their medals and sets off to challenge other players. Sally secures the necessary remaining medals through combat, and along with Kasumi, they spend the rest of the event in an energy field to protect their medals from theft. As the event concludes, Maple uses her gained abilities to upgrade her turtle syrup into a mobile fortress. In the real world, Risa warns Key that spending a week in the game might affect her behavior in the real world, even though it's only been a couple of hours in actuality. True enough, at school, our protagonist hasn't fully disconnected from the game, carrying over some habits that impact her school life. Though nothing too serious, aside from the occasional ball to the face. Back in the game, Sally tells Maple that the game has introduced a new feature and released glowing insects into the forest. Anyone who catches one of these insects earns the right to buy a guild house, serving as a base of operations. Maple is thrilled at the idea and wants to go insect hunting, but Sally surprises her by revealing she already caught one using her speed, and now they can go house hunting. Maple and Sally scout the city for the perfect home. Many options are already taken or not quite right, but they find an ideal house in the forest and decide to buy it. They plan to form a guild of adventurers to team up with other players, a common practice in the game. Thus, our heroes recruit Kasumi, Kanade, Kuromu, and Iz as members. In their new treehouse, by popular vote, Maple is elected as the guild leader, and they name their guild the Maple Tree Guild. The group splits up to search for items in the forest and a mine. Inside the mine, Maple discovers that Key possesses a Rubik's Cube-shaped staff that grants a random ability each day. In the forest, Kuromu and Kasumi are amazed by Sally's ability to handle a large number of creatures on her own. Back at the treehouse, they learn the administrators are preparing two new challenges. One is a generic battle against new creatures, and the other is a competition between guilds. Knowing they can't guarantee all guild members will be able to play on the event day, the group decides to expand their ranks, ensuring the absence of any member won't impact the guild's overall performance. Unable to find suitable members in level 2, Maple decides to return to level 1 with Sally to look for new recruits. While Sally searches for experienced fighters, Maple overhears two beginner players, Yui and Mei, who have maxed out their strength stats at the expense of their other abilities, leading them to be rejected by other guilds for not being balanced. Feeling a kinship, Maple recruits the young players, and with Sally's help, they assist them in advancing to level 2 by defeating the level's guardian again. The rest of the group is surprised to learn the new recruits also maxed out a single ability, strength, but they welcome the young players, seeing a reflection of their leader in them. Maple takes Mei and Yui under her wing, training them by repeatedly fighting against venomous dragons. Despite the hard push, she assists them throughout the process. Each time they defeat the dragon, they teleport back to the dungeon's entrance and start over. To keep things interesting, Maple introduces varied tactics. With Maple's guidance, Mei and Yui level up to 20 and gain new abilities that allow them to wield two-handed weapons and increase their damage. Inspired by their progress, the rest of the guild decides to venture out to level up and strengthen themselves. Kuromu follows suit, and Maple lends him her turtle for protection. Grateful, Kuromu privately admits to Syrup that he believes their leader might be too trusting, noting how he could easily run off with the turtle. Though he would never do such a thing, he feels it's his duty as a veteran player to look out for the younger members. In the mountains, Sally trains Yui and Mei, teaching them to utilize skill in their movements. She explains that even without evasion abilities, they can still dodge attacks if they see them coming. Later, Kanade upgrades his staff, enabling it to store some abilities for later use, while Kuromu conquers a hidden dungeon and secures new gear. In another dungeon, Kuromu battles a dead king and earns cursed armor that significantly boosts his power. Meanwhile, Maple seeks ways to enhance her abilities and stumbles upon an NPC mother with a sick daughter. Deciding to help, Maple embarks on a series of quests that culminate in curing the girl, separating her from a protective spirit trapped in her body. As a result, Maple gains the Loving Sacrifice ability, allowing her to share her defense with guild members. She requests is to craft a new set of armor to match her new capabilities. As the third event draws near, other guilds see it as the perfect opportunity to study the rising Maple Tree Guild. During the third event, where the objective is to collect bells from cow-like enemies, Maple discovers her abilities aren't quite suited for this specific task. The rest of the Maple Tree Guild steps up to compensate for her shortcomings. Despite this, Maple decides to wait for the cows, which look more like pigs than cows, on her mountain. However, she stumbles and falls off the mountain into a forest. There, she encounters a boss in a church she had visited earlier while assisting the NPC mother. In the temple, the monster proves too powerful for Maple. Despite utilizing all her defense tricks, she's devoured by the creature. Inside the monster's stomach, Maple's armor dissolves due to the digestive acids, but her protective magic remains unaffected. She withstands the assault long enough to devour the creature from the inside, absorbing its powers and gaining new abilities in the process. Meanwhile, the other guilds manage to gather enough power points and advance to level 3, much to the administrator's delight, who remain concerned about Maple's increasing power. The Maple Tree Guild also heads to level 3, but they must first defeat the Guardian of the Gate. Maple accomplishes this feat alone and without difficulty, showcasing her new abilities that allow her to transform into a gigantic monster. After devouring the Guardian in a wild frenzy, Maple returns to normal and tells her friends that her monster form is hard to control, so she won't use it unless necessary. Upon reaching level 3, Maple and company discover a world with advanced technology, closer to steampunk than the magic of the previous worlds. They split up to explore. Maple encounters an elderly man on the street who asks for help. She provides him with food and water, and in gratitude, he shares the history of their world. At the level's center lies a structure created by the god of machines, which remains a mystery in terms of its use. The elderly man reveals he's from the first generation of inhabitants, but one day, a flash of light brought forth a new generation and new machines, leading to hatred between the two generations. After hearing about the Machine Lord from an NPC, Maple ends up in the Dream Cemetery, where she faces another boss. The mechanical creature initially appears inactive but suddenly attacks Maple. The creature struggles to maintain control, and before it can go berserk, it bestows the Machine God ability on Maple. Maple absorbs the new ability, and the boss evolves into a more advanced robot and attacks her. Maple's Machine God power activates, forming a super technological armor around her. Using her newfound technological weapons, Maple battles the machine boss. After a fierce fight, our heroine emerges victorious, destroying the boss. In a mountainous area, Maple showcases her new abilities to her guild members, who are relieved to have her on their side. They decide to keep her mecha ability a secret for emergencies. In the lead up to the guild event, some of the girls relax on a beach while others continue their training. On the beach, however, Sally notices Frederica from the Holy Sword Order Guild spying on them. Sally challenges her to a duel, with the loser revealing information about their guild to the winner. Frederica agrees, but stipulates that if she loses, she will only reveal information about the Flame Emperor Guild, not her own. Sally accepts, and the two vanish. Sally and Frederica emerge in a combat arena and begin their duel. After Sally dodges all her magical attacks, Frederica concedes, sharing information about the Flame Emperor Guild. Frederica retreats, content in knowing that the information she divulged doesn't affect her guild. She also recognizes that continuing the fight would only give Sally insight into her own power, so she leaves, satisfied with having gauged her opponent's strength, unaware that Sally's abilities used against her were fake. Soon, the guild competition begins, tasking each guild with stealing orbs from others while defending their own. Given their small number, Sally strategizes for the guild, realizing they can't split their forces between offense and defense without weakening both fronts. They decide to save Maple's power for defending their orbs. In the days leading up to the event, the guild continues training to strengthen their abilities. On the day of the event, the group splits, with Sally leading Kuromu and Kasumi on the offensive to secure an orb. Sally instructs Kasumi to deliver the orb to Maple, then sets out alone in search of more orbs. Their actions are observed by other players not participating in the event, who, despite admiring her skill, doubt a small guild's ability to win against favorites like the Holy Sword Guild and the Flame Emperors. Using stealth and cunning, Sally secures a few orbs, even having a brief encounter with Dread from the Holy Sword before stealing an orb from the Flame Emperors, earning these ire in the process. With several orbs under their control, the Maple Tree Guild leverages Maple's defense to protect their base from all attackers. The first day ends with only 3 guilds in contention to win. Finally, Payne steps into the fray, living up to his reputation as someone who could single-handedly defeat all guilds. Yet, he remains cautious, with his primary concern being the small Maple Tree Guild. Despite having collected many orbs, the Maple Tree Guild faces the disadvantage of having few members, unlike the vast army of the Flame Emperors and the Holy Sword Guild, which boasts not just an army but the invincible Payne. The Maple Tree Guild star warrior, Sally, who has secured the most orbs, is starting to feel the toll of her efforts, growing increasingly fatigued. Kanade sets out to hunt for more orbs to assist Sally, while Kuromu and the others prepare to ambush any attackers, leaving Maple with Mei and Yui to defend the base. Sally soon finds herself surrounded by Frederica's forces. Despite her exhaustion, she manages to deal with many soldiers, but her hopes of survival dwindle as reinforcements from the Holy Sword arrive. Knowing her friend is in trouble, Maple leaves the base to help Sally, decimating Frederica's forces. However, Maple's departure allows Dread to attack the Maple Tree Guild's base. Though Dread inflicts Mei and Yui's first defeat, Maple stops him before he can steal any orbs. Once regrouped, it's time for Maple to go on the offensive. Thanks to Sally's reconnaissance work in making a map of the other guild's locations, it's up to our heroine to target their orbs. As Sally rests, Maple, May, and Yui launch an attack on the Flame Emperors, navigating through their traps before confronting me, Marcus, and Misery. Me and her team unleash a barrage of attacks to push Maple out of attack range, leaving Yui and May unprotected. Maple, deducing Me's strategy, instructs her friends to retreat, focusing more on their defense than on the fight, allowing the girls to safely withdraw and freeing Maple to unleash her full power. However, Me traps Maple in a flame prison, causing continuous damage. Maple responds by activating her machine god form, defeating Misery and Marcus, while Me's self-destruction attempt to take out Maple fails. Disappointed, Maple learns that Me, cornered, had ordered her troops to hide their orb, denying Maple points but also preventing her from claiming it. Considering tracking the orb, Yui and May advise against it, suggesting targeting nearby guilds identified on Sally's map for their orbs instead. Resurrected, Me and her followers are dismayed to learn of Maple's survival and vow revenge. The Maple Tree Guild continues raiding, but most orbs have already been claimed by larger guilds. However, the guild's popularity soars among the public, delighted by a small guild breaking into the top ranks. Facing the Holy Sword's main members, Pain, Dread, Frederica, and Drag, Maple takes significant damage from Pain. At critical health, Maple executes a counterattack, returning damage to Pain. The Holy Sword proves superior in combat, nearly effortlessly defeating our heroes. Despite this, Maple transforms into her atrocity form, overpowering Pain and the Holy Sword. Revealing her full capabilities, Maple, in atrocity form, aids her guild in defeating other guilds, preventing larger guilds from collecting more orbs and indirectly assisting the Flame Emperors, prompting other guilds to do the same. Pain and the Holy Sword respond by decimating the remaining guilds. Despite Frederica's frustration and Pain's humiliation, he resolves to grow stronger for a future rematch with Maple. With no guilds left to compete, the administrators end the event early, debating Maple's impact on the game. Deciding against penalizing her due to the influx of new players she's attracted, who aim to be the first to defeat her, the event concludes with the Maple Tree Guild in third place. Maple invites the Holy Sword and Flame Emperors for a celebration, featuring highlights of the event dominated by Maple and her guild's exploits. The game goes on, with former foes now friends, at least until the next event.